is a Greek god that I would like to introduce you to before we dive into today's full podcast on this Libra full moon. His name is Kairos, and he is the god of the opportune moment. So this is not time in the way that we normally think about it, like the ticking clock, the calendar, the hours, the minutes, that deadline. That's Chronos. Kairos is something completely different. Kairos is the qualitative moment, the moment that is ripe, the moment where something is ready to be said, done, decided for maximum effect in that moment. And here's how he's depicted, personified. A young man with wings on his feet, so fleeting, moving, always in motion, never still. And he has this very distinctive physical feature. He has this long lock of hair at the front of his head, and otherwise is completely bald. And that matters because this image has survived for thousands of years and because of what it means about how you catch him. The only way that you can grab on to Kairos, the only way that you could seize that opportune moment is if you meet it head on, if you are prepared for the unexpected and to dive in face to face and catch him when he presents himself. Because once he's past you, once he has moved beyond you, the hair is gone. We can't grasp him. There's nothing to hold on to. And so that moment has slipped and it's not coming back in the same form. And I want you to sit with that for a second. How many moments in your life have you let something pass? And it wasn't because you weren't ready, and maybe not because you didn't feel the rightness of it, but because something in you flinched. Something held you back. Maybe it felt too vulnerable, maybe too confrontational, maybe too uncertain. Maybe you're like, no, but I have to have this and this and this in place first. Because keeping the peace perhaps is safer than saying the truth, saying the thing. And this Libra full moon happening on April 1st is a Kairos moment. And I think if you understand what this lunation is actually doing at its deepest level in the ancient traditional layers of understanding, then you're going to understand what it's asking of you. And you'll have language to really bring context to it and meet it. And so that's what we're doing today. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. I'm Vanessa Rodriguez. I'm a clinically trained practitioner, Akashic channel, and astrology enthusiast. I host the Feed Your Wild podcast and the Wildly Rooted Spirit channel if you're watching over here on YouTube. And currently, for the Feed Your Wild podcast, we're approaching 1 million downloads across 75 countries, which still honestly blows my mind. So thank you for being here, and please share this out if you feel others would like this material and benefit. In these moon musings, every new and full moon, I go deeper into just the standard transit report. We're bringing in the traditional Hellenistic layers, the Decans, the mythology, and also what may not make it fully into the modern astrology content, but I also weave in modern astrology as well. And really wanting to pull it all together into something that you can actually see, something that you can use that's practical, especially if you're in the healing arts or spiritual practice, and doing that interior work, that incredibly sacred interior work, inner work of becoming more fully yourself. Now, this Libra full moon has some layers, and I want to go through all of them today with you, but I also am doing Akashic Oracle readings for each sign. This is where I open up the Akashic records for the collective. I have my Oracle deck of choice today, and I channel an Akashic message for each sign, which you can find time-stamped below. I recommend looking at your rising sign and or your sun sign. So let's get comfortable and cozy, and we're going to dive in. Now, here's what you're going to walk away with today. You're going to understand why this full moon has a specific weight and texture that goes beyond the typical Libra themes. So you're going to understand the Decan, the second Decan of Libra, where this lunation falls, why it matters, what it carries, what it's asking us. And then you're going to understand Kairos and that myth, what it means for you in this moment that is ripening in your own life right now. And so that you have a really clear language for something that I see constantly coming up for healers and empaths, a pattern that this lunation in Libra is putting directly in front of us and what to actually do about it. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But before we dive in, real quick, if you've been feeling the call to go deeper on this kind of work, intuitive healing work, and to practice your intuitive gifts, to get clarity on what they even are, to trust your intuition, like the inner oracle, it already is. I want you to know that I have something coming up that I think is going to be really powerful for you. If any and all of this resonates, it's called the Witch Wound Alchemy course, and it lives inside my community, Bloom, a sanctuary for healers. So I'm going to be talking about it again in later in this video with a little bit more detail, but just wanted to plant the seed now because there's 2 tiers for my school community called Bloom. And there's a standard tier for just $11. It's a total steal a month. And then for Bloom Premium, which is currently at $44 a month. This includes all of my courses inside of Bloom, as well as live Oracle practice circles, live Akashic Q&As with me. And it's just so much in there that I've poured my heart into. The price is going up April 1st, the day of this full moon. So if you've been on the fence, or if this is the first time you've even heard of it, but it's resonating, this is genuinely your window to come in to grab that price of $44 a month. You get that forever. You can cancel anytime. The link is in the description. Okay, so let's get into this full moon. This full moon is happening exact on April 1st. 10:12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, so just for your time zone. Some of you may experience this on the 2nd of April. And this moon is at 12 degrees, 21 minutes of Libra. And the sun is exactly opposite at 12 degrees in Aries. So that's the case for every full moon. We have the moon and the sun opposite one another. And the first thing I always say is find this in your chart. Look up where 12 degrees of Libra falls in your house system. And that area of your life, that house, is where this light is being turned on right now, where something you couldn't quite see is now becoming visible. That's what full moons do. They bring something to light. Something is illuminated, completed, culminated, brought into a new state of equilibrium. Now, Libra, let's actually talk about this sign because I think it gets flattened so much into just balance and harmony, and that's only a fraction of what it is. So Libra is cardinal air, and I want you to hold both of those words because cardinal is an initiatory energy. It initiates something, and Libra is not passive, sitting on the fence trying to offend anyone, not trying to offend anyone, or at least like not in Libra's highest expression. Libra initiates. And just as all cardinal signs initiate a particular season. So it starts something important. It creates a movement. Cardinal signs are the ones that begin those seasons. So Libra begins autumn in the northern hemisphere. The equinox, a point of real cosmic significance. And so there's this force with Libra. There is will. And that air quality means that that force moves through the mind, through thought, through language, through dialogue and analysis, and the exchange of perspectives. It's about exchange because Libra is also about relationship. Libra is trying to understand. It's trying to see the full picture, and it's fundamentally constitutionally oriented toward the other, so one-on-one. Partners, collaborators, loved ones, the people in your that you're in direct relationship with, clients, audience, etc. At a full moon in Libra, something gets illuminated about the other, about a dynamic that you weren't seeing clearly. And of course, every relationship we have is a mirror, so we see something more clearly within ourselves. And about what you actually feel and need within a relationship. So there can be an important conversation that finally happens, one that maybe has been waiting, like in the background or in the wings somewhere. And there can also be the shadow side of Libra, which is analysis paralysis, the inability to choose because you can see so many sides, compare and despair, comparison with others, losing yourself in deferring to what the other person needs or wants, so that people pleasing. And the Aries sun on the other side is doing its thing, like sovereign and clear Aries. I am who I am. I know what I need. I exist kind of energy. Also initiatory energy, cardinal energy. So the axis is the me and we, the me and us axis, the individual self in relationship with others. So how do you maintain the clarity of who you are while also genuinely showing up for the people that you're committed to or you're in relationship with? That's the perennial Libra question. And this full moon is asking it again, of course. Now, some sky context. We have the sun, Saturn, and Neptune all clustered in Aries. Chiron is also in Aries. This is significant Aries stellium, and it's building towards something even more intense in the Aries new moon on April 17th, which we'll get there when we get there. But right now, that Aries energy, that fire energy is kind of the backdrop. Like the sun in Aries is the self coming forward, right? Saturn in Aries is a structure and commitment and seriousness entering new territory. And Neptune in Aries is vision, spiritual direction and will, and also possibly dissolution and confusion. So we don't always know what's true when Neptune is involved. Venus moves into Taurus March 30th. So she's already in Taurus right now. She's at about 2 degrees. And she's important here because she's the ruler of this lunation. She rules the sign of Libra. And so we're going to spend some real time with her. Mars is at about 23, 24 degrees of Pisces, still there, still clearing things, not quite yet in Aries. We'll get to him as well. And Mercury is now direct, but still in Pisces and in the retrograde shadow. And then Jupiter is still hanging out 15 degrees of Cancer, stationed direct earlier this last month, so March 10th. And forming a T-square to this full moon. So that's one of the most emotionally significant pieces of this chart. And we'll get into all of this. Okay, so the decans. This is where we go into the territory that not a ton of astrologers get into. This is the part that I really want you to sit with. So 12 degrees of Libra places this full moon in the second decan of Libra. And the decans are sections, like a pie, of each sign. Each decan is 10 degrees of the sign. So there's 30 degrees in a sign. So there's the first decan, the second decan, and the third. So this particular lunation is in the second decan of Libra. Now, each decan has its own planetary ruler, co-ruler, and associated with the tarot card, and its own presiding mythological figures that are like the deities of the particular decan. And so they have a distinct flavor that they add. That's why like not all Librans are the same. Not all Aries folks are the same. Each degree is different, but then you can layer on this decan energy. So you can think of it like this. The sign is the room, and the decan tells you which corner of the room that you're in, right? What the furniture looks like, who's sitting there, the vibe. And the second decan of Libra spans from 10 degrees to 20 degrees of Libra. So it's the planetary ruler of Libra 2, the decan, the second decan, is Saturn. And Saturn is not incidentally connected to Libra. Saturn is the exaltation lord of Libra. So that means that Saturn has special dignity in Libra, in this sign, even though Saturn is considered the greater malefic. So when Saturn is in Libra, or when Libra is invoking Saturnian themes, there is this quality of Saturn at his most functional, serious, committed, in it for the long haul, building something that will last. So right now, Saturn is at 5 degrees of Aries, directly across from Libra on the zodiacal wheel. So the exaltation lord of this full moon is sitting in the sign directly opposite. There's a tension in that. There's a pull in that. Saturn in Aries is about building a new identity with discipline and with courage and with will. And the full moon in Libra is asking, how does that sovereign self exist in relationship? What do your commitments look like from the other side of the axis? Now, the tarot card traditionally associated with this decan is the Three of Swords. Oof, like when most people see the Three of Swords is the piercing of a heart, often with storms and rain in the background and clouds. Like the immediate response is like, dread. It's heartbreak, it's pain, it's loss, and yet this imagery is real. It's one of the only cards, I believe it might be the only card, that does not have a depiction of a person in it. This decan does carry the possibility of hardship, of challenges, of difficulty, and of things that are painful, that hurt. But here's what I think is more accurate and more useful. The Three of Swords is the card of what you invest in terms of like your time, your energy, your attention, your love, your focus, meeting reality. So it's what happens when something you are genuinely deeply committed to, whether it's a path, a relationship, a belief, a dream, meets the full weight of what commitment actually means. This is not the honeymoon phase. This is not the inspiration. This is like the full reckoning when you're deep in the relationship, right? The astrologer Austin Coppock calls this decan links of a chain. And then Susan T. Chang calls it ties that bind. And I find both of those framings so much more honest about what this energy is really about, because Saturn, remember, he's the ruler here. And Saturn wants things to last. Saturn is the builder. Saturn doesn't care about what is easy or the fast route. Saturn cares about what is real, what works. And the question this decan asks is, are the ties that you are in, the commitments that you've made, the relationships that you're bound to, the paths that you have chosen, are they genuinely aligned with your deeper truth? Or have you been maintaining them out of obligation or fear or familiarity or that Libran tendency to just keep the peace? I want to expand on the definition of ties here because I think it goes wider than we usually apply it. Yes, of course, this includes romantic partnerships as ties, but I want to also talk about marriage in its broader sense, marriage to a belief system, marriage to a vocation or a calling, marriage to a community, a practice, devotion, a way of seeing the world. When you commit to a healing path, when you decide this is how I'm going to live and what I'm going to give my energy to, this is a form of marriage. It's contractual on an energetic and soul level, and oftentimes legally as well, right? Binding, that's the binding, the ties that bind. It's sacred. And it comes with a lot of the same dynamics. When it's good, it is really good. It nourishes you. It expands you. It gives your life meaning. Like when you are in love, especially that honeymoon phase, right? It's just like, juicy, the best thing ever. And when it breaks down, or when it starts to not fit anymore, or when you realize the terms of the commitment and agreement need to renegotiate, or that you never agreed to the contract in the first place, that can feel like major grief. That can feel like all of those swords in the heart. It could feel like death. Now, the ancient texts associated with this decan, that the words associated with this decan reference things like joy and marriage in a celebratory sense. And also fighting, and indignation in the shadow sense. And I find that pairing really honest because same energy, two sides of the same coin, right? That produces the deepest intimacy and devotion also produces the sharpest conflict when something feels unfair, when those scales tip. The sense that something is not right, that particular feeling of being wronged or of someone not holding up their end of the contract or the bargain or something that you both agreed to. Which brings me to something I want to say about indignation specifically, because I think it's really relevant here. Indignation is that feeling of anger or when you're pissed off, the pissed offness that is provoked by something that you perceive as unfair. That's kind of the definition of indignation. And it's important to name that word, perceive, within indignation, because it almost always is rooted in a belief system. It's based off of what you are perceiving through your lens, your view and vantage point on this side, on your side of the scales. And Libra, paradoxically, even as a sign of justice, can slide into a very convincing self-righteousness. I mean, a lot of the signs can. But Libra can also see both sides and, say like, hey, I'm looking at both sides. I can understand. I've seen them and I'm right. And that is not actually Libra at their best. That's Libra that, is maybe co-opted by ego, as so many of us can be. So one of the invitations that I'm seeing with this full moon is to stay honest. Stay honest about where your sense of fairness might actually be perception-based, like honest with yourself first, where you might be holding your position as truth when it's actually just your truth, not the truth with a capital T. And that doesn't mean that your needs don't matter. They absolutely do. But there's a difference between standing in your truth and entrenching in your position. And that's dogma, that's self-righteousness, right? And Libra, when it's functioning at its highest, knows that difference. And I see with the healers and the empaths, it typically goes the other way where you defer and you self-sacrifice, right, to keep the peace. Now let's get back to Kairos for a moment, because I want to go deeper into why this deity presides over this deck, why it's so significant that Kairos presides over this decan. Now the word Kairos appears in the Bible over 80 times. And every single time, it's specifically distinguishing this kind of time, this appointed time, the right time, the season of ripeness, God's time. And that's separate from Chronos, which is the sequential quantitative measurement of time according to clocks and calendars and minutes and hours. There's a phrase that comes through the biblical use of Kairos, the fullness of time. This moment when something that has been developing, ripening, building, reaches its fullness and is ready. It's full moon energy. And not a second before, not a second after. Right now, in the moment. And I want you to think about that in the context of your own life right now. Is there something that has been developing in you? A realization, a truth, a knowing about a relationship, or a commitment to a particular direction that has been quietly ripening. And that maybe you have been feeling the edges of that for a while, but you haven't quite let yourself look at it directly, because that's exactly what a full moon does. It illuminates, it brings to light, shines a light on what we couldn't fully see before. And a full moon in this particular decan, presided over by Kairos, is specifically activating this question, is now the moment? And another thing that I find really important with this image of Kairos, that forelock that I mentioned before with the bald head and the wings on his feet, this image has zero judgment in it. It's like Kairos isn't saying, oh, you should have seized that moment. Na boo-boo. When he runs away. He's simply showing up. In those moments, as they come and they pass in the window to meet them is not infinite. And this is not meant to create anxiety. It's not about, oh, you're going to miss out if you don't capture it right now. But it's never going to come around in the same way. The stars are always in motion. So this is really meant to create presence, to wake you up to the moment you're actually in and ask, what is ripe for me right now in my relationships, in my commitments, in my deeper truth that is ready to be said, spoken, or decided upon, or moved toward? And what is holding me back from saying yes to this moment? Because the thing about Libra's shadow, that analysis paralysis, the endless consideration of all the angles, the deferring and the keeping of the peace, is that it can keep you in a kind of suspended state where Kairos passes by again and again and you never quite reach out and grab him. So I feel this full moon is an invitation to reach out, to capture and take advantage of this opportune time and moment. Now, one more layer of this decan that I want to touch is the Three of Swords connection to the sword suit overall in tarot, which is the air element and connected with the mind and beliefs, the realm of thoughts, communication, ideology. And this is interesting because it means the difficulty associated with this decan is not usually about external circumstances, although it may be what we perceive in that moment. It seems like it's external to us. It's about what we think, what we believe, how our mental frameworks are shaping what we're able to see and say and commit to. Those chains and ties of this decan are often mental, just as much as they are relational. So the beliefs that bind you, the beliefs that bind you to a pattern, that bind you to an old way of being, the narratives that keep you in a dynamic long past its expiration date. How many times have you experienced where you know the thing, the person, the job, whatever it is, has gone past its expiration date and you need to move on? So the story you tell yourself about why you can't say the true thing or why you can't make the decision or why this relationship requires you to be anything other than what you are, why now is not the right time, all of that needs to be sat with, looked at, and tended to. And Saturn in this decan is asking, which of those beliefs are actually worth committing to, actually worth the commitment? And which ones need to be released, cut, gently cleared with the precision of a sword and the compassion of someone who loves deeply? Because remember, Venus rules Libra and she is about love and beauty and art and harmony and values. Now, speaking of Venus, Venus moved into Taurus the end of March, and she is the ruler of this full moon in her lunation. She's in her home sign, one of the two signs that she rules, Libra being the other one, and now she's in Taurus. So when the ruler of a lunation is in her own sign, she's got full dignity, she has all of her resources, she knows who she is, she knows what she values. And there's something that I find really grounding about this Venus in Taurus. Taurus is one of the most body-based signs of the zodiac, if not the most body-based. It is about the physical, the senses, the pleasure, nourishment, the natural world, and what you can touch and taste and feel and grow. So Venus in Taurus is the empress in the tarot. She represents fertility and lushness and abundance that comes from being rooted, being connected to the earth, and beauty that is not for decorative sake, decorations, but like essential beauty, walking the beauty way. She's also in Taurus deeply attuned to her values and priorities. And through the senses, through the body knows, the body's always part of the conversation. And she can feel what matters versus what is excess. And that's really an important quality to bring to this full moon that has that Saturnian weight to it, this grounded, embodied knowing of what is genuinely worth your commitment and who you are and what is not worth it. But Venus is moving toward an exact square to Pluto in Aquarius. She's there already by orb. She's not quite at the exact square, but it's getting stronger. And so the full moon is also illuminating a pressure that is building. And Pluto's square Venus is this deep transformation. When I tune into this, it feels like a deep transformation of what we value. This is a kind of restructuring at the level of what you fundamentally care about and like what you're willing to invest in, because this is Taurus, Venus's most earthly, practical, resource-oriented expression, also connected in with all aspects of the material, including money. And so what you choose to spend and what you choose to stop spending, like where you're putting your time, your energy, your attention, and whether that investment is actually paying off. Some of you are going to feel this as a kind of shift and reckoning, like looking at maybe your finances or your commitments or your creative projects and food, and having to get honest about what is serving the larger vision that you have for yourself, that you're building, or what's just maybe a comfortable habit. Now, what Venus would choose normally out of preference versus what Pluto is asking her to choose, because it's serving the longer arc, like the long-term story. And here is where that Saturn-Pluto sextile becomes really important, because Saturn is at 5 degrees of Aries and is in a sextile to Pluto at 5 degrees of Aquarius. So they're talking to each other. All of these planets are talking to each other. And those two planets in particular are working harmoniously together. And this is sort of this, like the dominant undercurrent of this whole chart. And what they're doing together, I feel, is creating real restructure and structural support for building something new, something that is aligned, not just with what you desire or want personally, but where humanity is actually going, because Pluto being an outer planet and in that sign of Aquarius of, the collective and that very humanitarian type of sign, there's something here that's bringing in the collective as well. Now, Aries wants to go fast, right? Like Aries wants to get the shit done and go fast. But Pluto in Aquarius keeps pulling that vision wider, right? So bringing in other people, the collective awareness and benefit for the collective, the long game. So I feel this Libra full moon is shining a light and asking this question of, like, who are you needing to be in partnership with right now? Like, what conversation, what collaboration, what commitment, rather than going at it alone, like going together, would allow you to build something that actually lasts and is according to your true value system and your value, like what you value. And then we have Jupiter at 15 degrees of Cancer that is making a T-square to this lunation, squaring both the sun and the moon. And so that's a cardinal T-square because Cancer is a cardinal sign as well. And so these are 3 points of tension, all pulling each other simultaneously. Now, Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, and it's one of the most powerful placements right now because it's in the domain of the moon, Cancer being ruled by the moon. So there is this, and with that Cancerian energy, it's always bringing in those themes of like feeling and emotional memory and what's happening on a deeper level. And what Jupiter in Cancer has been doing while in retrograde, and what it continues to do as it moves direct, is hold this enormous container of emotional wisdom. The things that you've been processing, the layers of yourself that you've been accessing, core imprints, especially from early life and childhood, patterns from your family systems, from your maternal line, memories that are still active in you, all of that has been getting reviewed and understood more deeply. and alchemized. And Jupiter really expands whatever it touches. And in Cancer, it's expanding that emotional intelligence and ability to understand what is nourishing for you. What do you need to sustain yourself while you're doing this deep work? Your capacity to feel and sense and know the things at a level that goes underneath the rational mind. So this full moon, I feel, is a trigger of expression for all of that. Now, what that means experientially is that what you planned to say may not be what comes out, because here we also have Mercury in detriment in Pisces still. So Mercury can't quite say what they really want to say. They don't even necessarily know what they want to say. It doesn't mean that what you say isn't correct or true, but it's like more poetic than logical, and it's moving through the waters. So there's something here about not necessarily having the words just yet, but allowing yourself to feel through everything on an energetic, spiritual level, emotional level. Like that is what I'm feeling for you, especially with Mars also in Pisces. So not fully being able to do his Mars thing. So even though Mercury is still direct, planet of communication, still in the retrograde shadow, not at full capacity, swimming in those Piscean waters. And so it's okay. It's okay if you don't have the words. This feels like a period of integration and realization. And something is being reorganized at the level of your mind and mental frameworks and maybe narratives and belief systems. And it may not be ready to be totally clear with the logical mind or to be even spoken yet, but it is ready to be felt. So feel it. And I know you know, healer, feel it to heal it. Okay, so speaking of healer, I want to be direct and speak specifically to those of you who identify as healers, as sensitives, as empaths. And honestly, I think for most of the people who find their way to content like this and who listen to my stuff, the second decan of Libra, the Three of Swords, the ties that bind, Saturn's weight here, I think it has something very particular to say to people like us. And I don't want to gloss over it because I think that one of the things that is really important for us to understand and recognize is how we shapeshift. And shapeshifting is can be an absolute gift, especially when you're meeting people where they're at and in relating. But then there's also shapeshifting in terms of adjusting who you are to benefit the environment or others at the detriment of your own self. Consciously or unconsciously, what happens very often is we shapeshift to match the situation or the person, what the person seems to need in the moment. Like you can read a room and you might soften certain things within yourself or within your communication because you're reading the room and you're like, okay, this may not be the place for it. And I want all of us to simply bring awareness to when that happens, because sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's beneficial for everybody. But if there's any time when you're feeling like it's actually a sacrifice, or it's because of fear, or it's because of imposter syndrome or some other kind of programming, I want you to simply notice. Notice if you make yourself smaller or more agreeable than you'd like, or more contained even. And depending on, what would make the other person more comfortable, more at ease, more able to receive you, more making yourself more palatable. For highly empathic, intuitive people, especially women, especially healers, this is not a character flaw. Again, there's a gift in that, right? Like it's actually a deeply sophisticated skill that you can read the room, that you can feel what others need, that you can adjust your approach or how you present yourself in real time, that shape-shifting is a genuine gift. But again, the problem lies when it becomes unconscious and habitual, and there's a sacrificial nature to it. And when it's stemming from fear or judgment. So simply notice. And when the adjustment, that shape-shifting happens automatically, it's very often a survival mechanism and process or a people-pleasing reflex. So again, notice. And notice when there's a sort of sacrificial lamb dynamic with that. And I've seen this play out in healers more than almost anywhere else. And it looks like this. You give something essential of yourself. So your time, your energy, your gifts, your service, your honest perspective. And in service of making the situation okay for someone, or in service of helping someone to heal, and you tell yourself, oh, it's in the name of love. It's a service. It's just how I am. And sometimes it is, but sometimes it's at your own detriment. And what you lose in the process is something that you can't fully name, but you feel it. And I want to ask you, what do you lose in that shape-shifting? Like, what part of you goes quiet or hides so that someone else can be comfortable? What truths are you holding back, or do you swallow because the timing doesn't feel right, or the audience doesn't feel right, or because you don't want to rock the boat, or maybe you've learned in the past that expressing your needs tends to create more problems than it solves? I know that was true for so long in some of my relationships. What version of you only comes out when you're alone, or when you're in a group of people that get it? So that Libra shadow is beautifully constructed to enable this. And it is a gift. It is beautiful, but again, not if it's sacrificing something of yours that is sacred. So notice, and no judgment to it, but I feel that this full moon is wanting to shine a light on some of those patterns. And also with those dynamics with Pluto and Venus, and then Saturn with this Decan, it's kind of like, and Jupiter in Cancer with that care, tend to that, tend to yourself. It's not necessarily about making decisions right now, but if there's the opportune moment, can you seize it? One thing that pops through right now as I'm talking about it in terms of communication patterns is nonviolent communication. So if you have never heard of that, do a quick Google search or search on YouTube. There's lots of videos on nonviolent communication. I think it's a very useful tool, especially if you've been stuck in patterns and loops where communication just was like not working within your relationships. So that's one way to explore new ways of communicating that then can help you get your truth across, but in a way that is honest and not purposefully or unconsciously hurtful. With that being said, I invite you to explore. Like, if you're in a dynamic that feels unjust, unfair, then a question worth asking is, how much of what I'm calling unjust, unfair, is a genuinely objective assessment, right? And how much is my belief system interpreting events or words through a particular lens? Now, this is not about minimizing your experience. It is about staying intellectually honest in a sign that is at its best when it remains genuinely curious rather than jumping to conclusions. Because the moment Libra tips from, oh, I can see all sides and I can hold all sides and I can argue both sides, into, hey, I've seen all sides and like, I'm right, then it has left the gift of the scales and has entered the shadow realm with that. So that true Libran justice is not about winning. It's about equilibrium. It's about harmony and the beauty within that. It's about a resolution that leaves everyone more whole than before, and not one person benefiting and the other is defeated. And this is also a Kairos skill. It's like knowing the moment to say the thing, knowing the moment to push, knowing the moment to soften and back off, knowing when a person across from you is actually able to hear what you're trying to say versus when they're defending and then the words will just bounce off. It's about timing, and that's a huge part of effective communication, that qualitative sense of now versus not yet. And I feel it's one of the gifts that lives within this particular decan as well, when you can see it. Now, I want to pause here for just a second, because if what I just described really hit home for you, if you recognize yourself in that sort of shape-shifting pattern or that hiding pattern, holding your voice back, then I want you to know that there's a place where we go even deeper on this. And I mentioned it earlier in this podcast episode. I have a mini course called Witch Wound Alchemy that is coming out inside of my membership community in school. It's called Bloom. It's a sanctuary for my intuitive healers. And this is where we go all the way to the root of this pattern. We're talking past life regression, subliminals, revision work, deep subconscious work that is specifically designed to dissolve the old vows and the ancient fear that lives in the body, and the integration practices to also help you actually anchor this in your nervous system in your present life. So it's not just about understanding what this is intellectually, it's about embodiment and embodying that shift. Because you can understand the pattern all day long. Like you can recognize, oh, that's interesting. I feel like that's connected with some sort of witch wound, which, by the way, I get into what the witch wound is. And it's not just about the burning times. There is so much there in terms of the healer's wound and the persecution wound and the staying silent and all of that. But until something moves at an energetic, somatic, and root level, that shape-shifting keeps happening. So that's what Witch Wound Alchemy is for. It goes live April 1st, literally the day of the full moon. And it's going to be inside Bloom Premium. There's 2 tiers of Bloom. And with Bloom Premium, which is currently at $44 a month, you get access to not only the Witch Wound Alchemy, but also the Healer Identity Upgrade, which has a specific mind-shifting protocol that dissolves the game player, the identities that are not serving you in your subconscious that are running the show. They pair beautifully together, so powerful at the subconscious and energetic level. In addition to other courses and beautiful experiences and the phenomenal community of intuitive women healers inside of Bloom. So if you want access to Witch Wound Alchemy and all of that, the courses, the community, the live work that we do together, the live calls, now is the time to hop into premium, because the price is going up at the end of April 1st. So I'd love to see you inside. The link is in the description, and come find me over there. Okay. Back to the astrology. We're almost there. Let's talk about Mars super quick, because all these planets in Aries, the Sun, Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, they're ruled by Mars right now. Mars is the ruler of Aries, and Mars is still in Pisces. And so almost done, almost out of Pisces, but not quite there. Mars in Pisces is not Mars at his best, okay? So I want to be honest about that. Mars is a planet of action, of initiative, assertion, clarity, yes, war too, but will, forward movement, fire energy. And Pisces is like, oh, oneness, boundaryless, fluid, dissolving of those boundaries. So they're not super comfortable together. And this image keeps coming up of Mars is someone who is in a triathlon, like an extraordinary runner and cyclist, but swimming is not their best leg of the triathlon. It's not their strongest event. So they get in the water, but they're in the water first, and they start swimming. And, it's fine. You're moving. You're not drowning. but it feels effortful in a way that the other events don't. Like there's a little bit more resistance. You're moving a little bit more slowly. There's less efficiency. Maybe your technique is different. You're breathing more differently. Your body is working harder. And so there's less obvious forward progress. And so here's the thing about triathlons. Like the swimming usually comes first, so you don't drown because you're so tired. So you're putting this uncomfortable effort before you've even gotten to the parts where you really know how to like, get there and fly. But here's what's also true about that swimming leg. It's like you're not yet tired. Your legs, your lungs, like you got this. They're still fresh. So you're doing the uncomfortable thing while you still have your full reserves. And when you finally come out of the water and your feet hit solid ground in Aries, your home turf, and when you make that transition, there's like this specific, extraordinary feeling of your body remembering what it's built for. You're like, I got this. And you take off. That's Mars entering Aries on April 9th with this. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Mars is still in the water. And I think this is really important to understand because a lot of us are feeling it. And Mars also cuts things away. So Mars could also be cutting things out and away in the area of your life that is ruled by Pisces. So I want to just name that as well. So I want you to hear this. If you are feeling slow right now, or if you're feeling like your mental clarity and your communication is not where you want it to be, if you are feeling like you're working harder than your results are showing, just know that it's in the stars. It's okay. You're in that swimming leg. You're doing great. You're doing exactly what this phase of the cycle is calling for, and move with the flow. Go with the flow. And when the transition comes, when you feel that ground under your feet again, when Mars is in his own sign and Mercury has cleared the shadow, and eventually when Mercury moves out of Pisces, then things are really going to start to move. Those decisions that maybe felt like murky before will suddenly feel obvious. And that energy that may have felt a little stuck, it's going to be available to you. It's going to move. So the path forward is going to feel much clearer and faster than what it is right now. So trust the slowness. Trust your pace. We'll get there. Moving into the medical astrology portion, I'm going to keep it super quick and sweet. Libra is an air sign, so ruled by air and cardinal in nature, as I talked about in the very beginning. When we look at it from the medical astrology perspective and the energetic system of traditional Western herbalism, we look at tissue states, the various tissues in our bodies. And an imbalanced Libra is connected with a dry tissue state and also damp relaxation. So that means too wet and relaxed and laxity there. It's not tone enough. And also dry, another with that airiness, it could tend toward dryness. So the body systems in connection with Libra include the kidneys and the urinary system most prominently. We also see hormones in general and the endocrine system as well. Through the Venus connection, we see it connected with veins and anything where there's two of them. So for example, ovaries and the lungs. Now, when imbalanced and in a state of dis-ease, we can see issues with the urinary tract. So kidney issues, kidney imbalances and diseases, kidney stones. There's also diabetes and sugar addiction, that's Venus. And diabetes can lead to dialysis, right? There's urinary tract issues with diabetes. So also urinary tract infections, UTIs, and ulcers in the urinary tract, anything else in connection with that. You can see inflammation of any part of the urinary system, so like the ureters, and also skin complaints can also pop up here, a la Venus, and hemorrhoids and vein issues, varicosities. So that's another Venus-Venusian issue as well. So when we look at remedies for these tissue states of dry tissue or damp relaxation, we want to bring in, well, moistening herbs for the dryness, but also astringent herbs for the laxity. If it's more a damp relaxation issue, we want to tonify. We want to tonify if there's too much laxity and indecision, which is a form of laxity. So stimulating herbs that can counteract that kind of energy. So, and for those Librans who just need more Venus energy in their life, remember, this is like the sign also of beauty and harmony. Anything that is pleasurable and soothing, art, massages, just yumminess through the body, jewelry, gems, stones, flowers, things of that nature. And when we look at herbs in connection with Libra, there's quite a few that we can look at. If we're looking at bringing in more of that tonifying nature and stimulating nature, then nettles is really great for Libra. Nettles being ruled by Mars, so bringing in kind of that counterbalance energy. Cranberry, very astringent there. Golden seal is another one. Golden rod. Now, for the more guardian Libran herbs, so the herbs that Libra is connected to and rules, Damiana is one of my favorites, and I've talked about on the podcast. Rose is another one with Venus, of course, in connection. Jasmine, violet, the flower violet is really beautiful here as well. And yarrow. One of the ones that I just want to touch on very quickly, though, is passion flower. And passion flower is, I mean, just looking at its vibrant, beautiful nature, it's so Venusian. And it holds also the energies of the moon. So I felt that this was a really beautiful one for this Libra full moon with both of those energies together. And passion flower is typically used as a sedative. So it's very relaxing, very calming. It's unnerving, calms the mind. It could soothe the nervous system. It can help with any kind of tension and pain and any sleep issues as well. It can cool hot-blooded arguments, right? If your blood pressure is getting up because of stress or, heated discussions, it can gently lower blood pressure. It helps with tension, so like migraines and headaches, spasms and like tension, convulsions of certain kinds. It's just really helping to relax the body. Now, if the issue with the tissues is more of that too much laxity and relaxation, then passion flower may not be the ally for you. But passion flower is amazing for those that are overworkers, those that over extend themselves, those who have a challenge knowing when to stop or taking a break or resting. And for those who maybe don't have that opportunity to stop, to take a break, to rest on a practical level, passion flower can be really helpful. And also similar to skullcap, can help to relieve the busy brain, the busy mind, right? Just sort of like bringing a calming quality to all of the activity. And I feel like passion flower is especially lovely, a lovely ally for having around during really tough moments when like you're having a breakdown, breakthrough, that doesn't feel so great, a healing crisis of some kind, but really when like emotions are just like it's crunchy, anxiety is high. Passion flower is super supportive in bringing a calm and that rebalancing of the scales, especially of that air quality of the mind, which can obviously work its way downward. But passion flower is also very great for even bringing in, supporting our nervous system and bringing that calm to the body. So I encourage you to work with that ally if she calls to you and if constitutionally it's a fit. And I'm now going to get into the Akashic Oracle All Signs reading. I'm so excited for this. Now, if you're new here, I'm at Akashic Channel, and what I do is I open up the Akashic records for the collective. And this is like, bell curve types of channeling, right? And messages. So take what resonates and just leave the rest, because not everything may pertain to you. I highly recommend tuning into your rising sign, especially, but also your sun sign. So your rising sign is more of like the personality, the avatar of this life. So it'll hit more home on like a mundane level, because it's like the stage that you're living is according to your rising sign, the stage of this earth life. Your sun sign is connected with your spiritual self, your soul self. And so if you live more in accordance with that, or like your work is connected with that, because it can also have to do with how you are seen and visible and in your work, then tune into your sun sign. I find that both of them are really helpful for me, and I like to listen to both. Okay, so here we go with Aries. And for this, I am pulling from the Earth Magic Oracle deck by Stephen Farmer. Aries, you are first, my dear. And it's your season right now. Oh, this one popped out. Okay, Gaia, nurturing. Gaia, nurturing. Now, I love this because if you look, it's all of these beautiful flowers and land and green, lush, but also the waters. And this airy quality of Libra as well, the clouds. Okay, so let me tune in for your sign. Aries, I feel like there's something here that is, with this nurturing Gaia quality, something that I didn't mention, actually, is that this moon, this Libra full moon, is conjunct the asteroid Makemake, which is connected with this energy of being deeply connected with the earth and saving, like being an advocate for nature and healing through the forces of nature and that connection. And then we have Venus, the ruler of this lunation, that is in Taurus in her own sign, very much a sign of the earth. So there's something here that is bringing forth this attention and this energy of the earth. And the earth not as just like this, concept in this globe that we happen to live on, but as a living entity that is one of our mothers, because we are also earth. We are her children. And this energy of spring that you initiate, it's this beautiful dance and alchemical process with Mother Earth, where we start to see the life comes through the frost, and that initiatory energy like brings forth the blooms, which we see so beautifully here. So there's something, though, before we fully get there, there's a nurturing that is necessary for that which you are, that which is emerging within you and that wants to bloom through you. But it feels in connection with nature. It feels like when you plug in to her frequency, and some of the ways that I'm seeing that are literal grounding, like bare feet on the earth, that sort of magnetism and that exchange, but also of deeply connecting with her resonance, her frequency. So like the Schumann resonance is one example of her frequencies. I feel like she has many, and she has some primary, and we may not have names for them, but we can feel them and we know them because we like, for example, when we go on hikes and when we're barefoot and we're tending the garden, like, we sync up with those frequencies. And that's what I'm getting for you is like, the more that you can sync up with that, the more that energy is going to feed and nourish you and support you and nurture you, just as you are in this exchange and nurturing her through your presence, through your love. It's kind of like thinking a mother with a young child, like her toddler, that just comes and runs and holds onto her and hugs her and is telling her, like, you know, I'm here, I want to be with you. Like, oh my gosh, that's one of the most beautiful feelings for a mother, right? To like have her child come to her. I mean, at any age, but I feel it's extra sweet when they first start talking, right? And so that's what I'm feeling for you is give that gift to Mother Earth and you will receive multifold, manyfold in that nurturing process. Because what's happening right now, and if you've tuned into the earlier talk that I had about Mars, the ruler of your sign, kind of in that like swimming leg of the triathlon, we're nurturing something really beautiful here. And in the sign of Pisces, it very much is in the realm of your spiritual life, your dream life, your subconscious, and something that is preparing you for that fire and that action that's about to ensue when Mars enters Aries. So I hope that's supportive for you. Very lovely. Let me know how you are nurturing yourself and Gaia in the comments below. Taurus, we are pulling for you. Please tune into your rising and or sun sign. And I am pulling from the Earth Magic Oracle deck by Stephen Farmer. And you have Lotus Flower, Unfoldment. So here is your card. Lotus Flower, Unfoldment. Beautiful colors. Okay, so let's tune in for you. This is Venus in Taurus. So Venus and Taurus, but Venus is very much connected with the rose, and rose in the Western world is a mirror and kin to the lotus flower in the Eastern world. So they have very similar roles and archetypes. And the lotus flower, this unfoldment is this quality of what emerges from the heaviness, the muck, the shadow work, the challenges, the stuff that you trudged through, moved through. And, you know, it could have been pleasurable as well, but it doesn't feel easy. Like when I'm tuning into whatever it is that you've been moving through or like trying to make happen. And now I'm feeling this sense of like, things are beginning to reveal themselves. Things are beginning to move. And there's this unfoldment process through that. Now, there is something here that is about remembering the lesson in that. It's not about, oh, like I've survived or I made it through. It's like, what are you realizing and walking away with a deeper understanding of your life, of your process, and what continues to unfold, and witnessing, taking a look back at what you may have perceived as the dark nights or as the dark nights, or just the mud and muck that you have moved through. And what about that contributed to the fertilization of what is now emerging for you and blooming in your life, in a particular area of your life. There's also something here of allowing yourself to be witnessed, like to be seen and celebrated, because there's something holy in that. It's like seeing yourself through God's eyes, through the Creator's eyes, and allowing yourself to be seen in that way feels like it's part of the process, part of the healing, as if you are looking at a rose or a lotus that is, the petals are unfolding, and the awe and the wonder and the pleasure in that. Can you turn that gaze toward yourself and see yourself in that same way, in that same process? That's the invitation for you. And there's something about an emergence of the soul side of yourself that maybe stayed behind the clouds is now emerging in that full solar capacity. And how beautiful. It's like, it brings me back to this time when I was in Santorini, the Greek island, and there's like the famous watching of the sunrise, and just like the spectacular nature of that. And I'm feeling like that is something that's a gift that you can give yourself, in seeing yourself in that same way, and what is emerging from you, seeing it in that same way. So lotus flower unfoldment, I'm excited for you. Let us know how that lands in the comments below. Gemini, we are pulling from the Earth Magic deck. Oh, and one just slipped out. We have full moon completion. Of course, a full moon on full moon completion. Okay, so let me tune in to what this has in store for you. I'm getting that it feels like a full circle moment. Something has come full circle. It also doesn't feel like something that is super tangible. It feels like it has an intangible quality. So it could be something internal, or like a pattern. There's like your full circle on a particular pattern. Let me take a sip of my water. So there's a completion of a particular cycle here. And when I ask, like, well, what is this more specifically about for Gemini? And I'm getting that there's something that is coming to completion before Uranus moves into your sign. Almost like Uranus is launching a new era in your sign. And I'm like, when I tune in, I feel like it has a lot to do with belief systems, like patterns, like thought patterns, or maybe programs that were running in your belief system that like you've come full circle. Something like you had to move through another cycle of this so that you can fully wring it out or address it or bring it to light, and then dissolve it, resolve it, like whatever it is that brought it to its completion point. And this is not just for this lifetime. I'm getting for multiple lifetimes. I'm being shown like multiple lifetimes and generationally. So this is big work. And then when I ask, well, what does it have to do with Uranus moving into your sign? I'm getting that then there's like a complete upgrade through this completion process, having a lot to do with like innovation in how you think and what you believe and how you move and the reality that you create through that innovative and like evolution in the mental space and in the subconscious. So this may be different for each of you. I'm not quite sure on exactly like which beliefs, because there's quite a bit, but I'm getting a general sense of that. And then I'm also getting that fear that you feel like you'll have to deal with it again, that it's going to come up again, to bring a tenderness to that fear because it's very old and it's because it's been something that's been ingrained in your nervous system, like maybe bringing in some nervous system support for regulating yourself or healing yourself so that you can relax because it's not coming around again. It is complete and you can trust that. Okay, so that's full moon completion. I hope that that serves you. Cancer, please tune into your rising and or sun sign. And we are using the Earth Magic Oracle deck by Stephen Farmer. And here we have love, compassion. Love, compassion. Okay, so for this, well, I mean, Jupiter in your sign absolutely exalted here in connection with the care and compassion, very much connected with Cancer, a Cancerian quality. There's something about bringing it to yourself, utilizing this lunation. Libra, in connection with Venus, the planet of love, is bringing self-compassion in when you are tuning into the dynamics that you have in your relationships. You know, I touch on like the relationships that we have. They're all mirrors. They offer unique perspectives and lessons and the opportunity for us to look at ourselves through a different lens. And what I'm getting here is that you can often be hard on yourself and hard on others, especially if you've been crossed, and you can hold on to grudges. So there's something here about liberating yourself through compassion and through divine love. Now, if you feel like, well, I can't quite bring love and compassion or forgiveness, which I feel is also a part of this, I can't quite bring that to this relationship, or I can't bring it to this dynamic, or I can't bring it to like whatever it is. And what I'm getting is that you don't have to from the mind. This is something that is beyond the mind. This is something that, like, when you talk about divine forgiveness, divine compassion, divine love, these are these elevated aspects, versions of these frequencies that we can embody, and we can ask for support in allowing those to flow through us if we cannot find it within ourselves. So there's something here about that, especially for yourself, in that situation, or like historically in that whatever dynamic is coming up, or that relationship, bringing so much self-compassion and also holding the compassion for the other. There are two hands here also touching this heart, and they don't need to touch one another. It's not about like not even necessarily going to that person and working it out or communicating, but I feel like it's touching this divine sacred heart here that holds that frequency of divine love. So asking for support, asking for help in that if you feel like you need assistance, and most importantly, opening your own heart to be able to receive that gift within yourself deeply. Oh, because there's something so healing and medicinal about that act alone that I really encourage you to open up for yourself. Give yourself permission. And you may not even know what this is about, and still you can heed this call and take me up on this invitation and get curious and see what flows through. Because you are also the one that can demonstrate this for others. And And that's the next part of your invitation. So I hope that's supportive for you. Leo, let's see what we got for you, babe. Tune into your rising and or sun sign, and we are pulling from the Earth Magic Oracle deck by Stephen Farmer. Dawn, new beginnings. Dawn, new beginnings. Okay, there's that card. I'm going to go ahead and tune into your sign. Daybreak, when the sun emerges, even though we know the sun will always emerge again and again and again. Sun gazing in that moment, at daybreak, at dawn, that visceral, embodied experience of a new beginning, a new day. There is something so holy about that, and healing, and touches every part of our being, because we are also solar beings. And you, being ruled by the sun and a solar being yourself, this is extra special. So I'm getting that this new sun, even though it's the same sun that we have, but the sun is always changing. Everything's always changing. It's constantly firing and moving and gaseous, right? Like, it's never really the same sun each moment. And each day is a different day. And what I'm getting for you is that there's this emergence of a deeper, aligned version of who you are at your core, that solar energy, that sun, that you are here to shine. And if you can give yourself that opportunity to witness a sunrise, I would highly recommend you take me up on that invitation, because there is an activation available for you through that act. Something that, it's a remembrance, it awakens something within you that is so deep, so ancient. And I'm also getting clarity. There's something about this illumination, this full moon, but like the sun illuminating, and I see the sun rising within you, and then it's like it dries what has been murky and damp and maybe stagnant. It's drying all of that up. It's bringing the food and life force, vitality, energy to that which is growing within you. And this chariot, I'm seeing an image also of the chariot rising, moving forward, that you can trust this sun. You can follow this sun, this soul sun energy, this solar energy, life force energy that is moving up and through your heart, and trust that it will move you in the best direction, highest direction for you. It will inspire the works of art, the creations, the words that are wanting to come forth from that solar energy. So trust that. But it's like you almost have to pay attention to it, because how many days do we go by without paying attention to the sun rising, and we take it for granted? And here I'm hearing that the invitation for you is to pay attention, and it's an internal process. So give yourself that space, attune to it. You just know. You don't need directives from me, but you do need to give yourself that opportunity and that permission to slow down and to witness what is awakening and emerging within yourself. And that it's also not just here for you, it's here for the rest of us. There's something that I feel in connection with once Jupiter moves into your sign, that this is in connection with, because Jupiter is forming this T-square. There's just like this tension point, like bringing our attention to something in the sign of Cancer, but then taking all of that and moving it into your sign. So there's something here for you to work with, and I would love to know what you are thinking it is. Let me know in the comments below, and there's your card. I'd love to hear how this lands. Virgo, my dear, I am doing your sign. Please tune into your rising and or sun. And we're tuning into the Earth Magic, Earth Magic Oracle deck. And this card flew out, Autumnal Equinox, Release. Release. Okay, so let us tune in for your sign. Man, there has been so much, especially with the South Node having been in your sign, so much letting go, so much. That it may feel overwhelming. You're like, what else do I have to let go of? So I just want to honor that for you, first of all. I want to honor that. And, you know, maybe you receive this card and you're like, F, release again? Like, what more do I have to release? So I just want to honor that. And what I'm being shown is these leaves that are a part of a tree, and they are falling one by one in their own unique way. But they're all part of the same tree, and they're all part of the same process. So while they may seem like they're not connected, or they're different, maybe different areas of your life, or different, seemingly not connected, they are all connected, and they're connected to you. And there's this release that is part of a natural cycle that you are in so that you can evolve. This is also, I'm getting this is a turning point. This lunation is a turning point for you. And there's still, well, this makes sense because I'm getting there's still not necessarily like complete clarity on everything or all the things or why things are being released. I feel like that's not the point, especially with the ruler of your sign, Mercury, being in Pisces. It's about allow yourself to feel all the freaking feels of this release work that you are doing. Be present and feel it. There's this trine in connection with Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter exalted in Cancer, who's saying like, hey, nurture yourself, self-care, like be in the emotions. I have you, I got you. Bring in that nourishment for yourself, is bringing a harmonious aspect to Mercury right now. Mercury, who may be feeling a little bit lost, still in the post-retrograde shadow, not feeling like they have all their resources in Pisces, but that's not the point. And so there's something here about going with the flow, allowing space for all of the feels, to be present with what is coming up, to double down on your spiritual connections and support, healing, and the subconscious, allowing Mercury to do Mercury's thing within the subconscious as well. Energetic ties, I'm also getting like Mars going through Pisces and making cuts there ahead of Mercury, kind of like then Mercury is going to move behind Mars in the aftermath of Mars's path. So again, allowing yourself to surrender, to be in this space where, and like of an understanding that the release is part of this natural cycle of this greater body that you are. And trusting that those leaves are going to fall at your roots, go into the ground, compost, and fertilize, and feed you once again. I'm sending you so much love. And I hope this was supportive for you. Let me know in the comments below. Libra, this is your lunation. And got one that flew out. Please tune into your rising and or sun sign. And we are pulling from the Earth Magic Oracle deck by Stephen Farmer. And you got Cave Sanctuary. Cave Sanctuary. Okay, so let's tune in for you. What I'm getting is this cave sanctuary is actually your heart. I see you dropping into the cavernous space of your heart, that vortex that we have, that is our heart mind and the empress of our body, mind, spirit. And to be with yourself, to take some moment to dive into that space and to honor that space and whatever may come through in terms of realizations and all of that. It's kind of like a hermity quality of going in, but I'm not getting hermit in the sense of like hunkering down and not going out on the mundane level. I'm getting more of the spiritual hermiting of like bringing your consciousness to this area because there's something there for you. I'm also getting, I heard written on the walls, like there's the ancient, what you have left for yourself is written on the walls of your heart. And this could be from past lives. This could be early childhood. This could be a version of yourself. And to go into, this could be even like a journey that you take yourself on, a meditation that you allow yourself to drop into your heart space like a cavern, a cave, that sanctuary. Go in and read what is on the walls and see what messages are available to you there, because it feels like a past version of yourself in some life or this life have left them for you to read. But you have, it requires you to take that step of going into that cave, having the courage and the moving through the resistance that might be there. And then a sanctuary is a safe place, a healing place. And so allowing yourself to maybe create that in your environment, your physical environment, especially Libra with you're ruled by Venus and beauty is your thing, right? So really bringing that into your home space. I feel like for some of you, that's sort of already happening without you having to initiate it. But I'm feeling for others, maybe you don't have that. And so there's this invitation for you to cultivate that sanctuary for yourself, even if it's in small ways, getting daily flowers for yourself or for the space that you're in, or getting a silk pillowcase or satin pillowcase, or it's not like you have to do a huge rearrangement or create the perfect environment, but is there one thing, a candle, a natural beeswax candle with some essential oils that's just smells beautiful? There's something about creating that environment for yourself that feels like a sanctuary. And if you're interested, we have our Sanctuary for Healers inside of my school community called Bloom. And I offer some meditations on anointing the self and some ideas around cultivating that sanctuary in the self. So I invite you in if that calls or speaks to you. But this really does feel like inside and out, allowing yourself to go there and to cultivate that for yourself. Especially if you've been waiting for it. It's make it yourself. Because you are an artiste. So allow yourself to remember that beauty is part of your medicine and part of the medicine that you need as well. Okay, I hope that's supportive for you. There you go with Cave Sanctuary. Let me know in the comments below. Scorpio, darling, we are doing your sign. Please tune into the rising and or sun, and we are pulling from Earth Magic Oracle cards by Stephen Farmer. Woo! Okay. We got two, so I'm just going to pick one and look at one. Forest. Breathe. Forest. Breathe. Okay, let's tune in. There's something here about, well, speaking of breath, I'm seeing like Mars, the ruler of your sign, in the Piscean waters, like that triathlete that is really having to find their breath. That's like, find their breath. It's not their best event, right? Which I talked about before. And so finding their breath, and that the breath and breathing and the technique and like bringing awareness to that is so incredibly important to making it through in the highest way. And that there's also a reciprocity. So breathing is not just for you. It's an exchange that happens with your environment. And that right now, as you sync up with that breath and attune to that exchange, that there's something that opens up for you. You're almost able to witness the exchange on subtler levels, especially as a Scorpio. I feel like you're so attuned to the subtle. And there's something here about opening up your perception through that very mundane. I mean, we literally do it all day, every day, is breathe. But when you know the power of breath. And so when you bring in this focus and attention and awareness around the power of the breath and the exchange that is always happening, it almost like opens up the awareness to the greater exchanges that are happening as well. And that you can move. I see you, it's like you become aware of exchanges with like thoughts. I'm seeing thought exchanges with others, with the collective, and kind of like the spidey senses turn extra on, and then having more agency through that exchange, like understanding what is yours, what is not yours in this forest, and then you're able to see the individual tree as well as the forest at the same time. So it's like this attunement, and I'm hearing that you can get there through breath work as well. But there's this attunement that brings you to a brainwave frequency and a state of consciousness where you can hold the vantage point of both the individual and the self and the greater collective and the greater than self, like the allness, if that makes sense. That's how I'm feeling it. It's like kind of like witness consciousness, except you are in it. So you're also a participant, not just the witness. And there's something that's really miraculous, is the word that comes through, that happens through that process. And I feel like an enlivening of something within you through some kind of realization or awareness that happens through that. Gosh, I feel like this, it feels very like intangible and esoteric. And so then the entry point is through witnessing and through breath, through actual breath work or breath practice, and or witnessing what happens when you're just simply breathing in your everyday life and the exchange there. And then like little by little, literally like almost like you have eyes that you're opening wider and wider and wider of your consciousness to perceive the other exchanges that are in connection with that breath. that sounds like a very interesting, meditative, contemplative process. Let me know how that goes if you choose to dive in, and what comes up for you in the comments below. I'd love to hear. All right, Sagittarius, I have the Earth Magic Oracle deck for you today, and please tune into your rising and or sun. Rainbow blessings. Rainbow blessings. Okay, so let's tune into this for you. What a lovely card. Well, the ruler of your sign, Jupiter, is in Cancer in his exaltation and now direct. And so there's something here about all that you have worked through, because I feel like Jupiter in Cancer hasn't necessarily felt like rainbows and sunshine and gumdrops, right? Especially when Jupiter was retrograde. Very often, Jupiter will cut away things, people, situations that in the moment it may feel so painful and arduous, but ultimately it's for your highest good or expression. And so it's kind of one of those things like, be careful what you wish for or ask for. So it may not have felt so much like a blessing up until now. But what I'm getting is that now Jupiter is at the mid-degree point of Cancer at 15 degrees, going direct. I feel like all of that more challenging expression is now coming into a place where it's like planting of the seeds for these blessings to emerge. And especially as Jupiter continues to move forward direct in the sign of Cancer. I'm also feeling like there's something available with this lunation where Jupiter's squaring, making a T-square to this moon and this sun. It's almost like Jupiter is holding this energy. It's like an anchor point and helping us to remember, like anchoring into the self-care, anchoring into the nurturance, anchoring into cultivating a deep sense of home and emotional stability within the self and nourishment so that we can also show up for others. That what is brought to light with this lunation in terms of our relationships is really adding to the blessings. It's adding to, like, the realizations are kind of like, it's a shining of a light of what we already knew deep inside, but it's almost like confirmation of something. And this looks different for each of you, like depending on your situation. But I feel like it's a big thumbs up kind of energy. So this may be external, like kind of like, oh yeah, green light, on that thing that you've been working on forever, or the thing that you thought you were behind, or maybe there's a lot of sacrifices, or maybe there was a lot of cutting away of stuff, but now it's starting to build, it's starting to come together. There was the effing storm, and now it's calm and the rainbow appears after the storm. That's what this feels like. So being fully present in this moment so you can actually see the rainbow. Like, what is the rainbow and the blessings in your life? You have to open your eyes and look and see it, because sometimes we just gloss over and we're still mired and stuck in the storm that has already passed, and we're not present enough and aware enough to see that the storm has cleared and there's a beautiful rainbow right in front of us. So that's your invitation. Let me know how this lands and what area of your life this is really opening up. I'd love to hear in the comments below. Capricorn, Please tune into your rising and or sun. And we are pulling from the Earth Magic deck. And you have, Summer Solstice Radiance. Summer Solstice Radiance. So let me tune in. Okay, well, the first thing that's coming through is you are in the sign of Aries, and the sun is currently in Aries, and the sun is exalted in Aries. There, even though it's not summer solstice, we just moved through spring equinox. There's this dance. Saturn, the ruler of your sign, the planetary ruler, just went through a cazimi and kissed the sun, and now is still conjunct, is still very close to the sun. There's this heat in the sign of Aries with the sun being exalted, almost like the sun kissed and blessed Saturn, who is also the exaltation lord of this lunation. So there's something here that you get this benefit from with this lunation of Saturn having moved through that, and Saturn being this a prominent player, and Saturn also being the ruler of the Decan of this lunation, Libra too. So there's something so interesting here that I'm feeling for you with so I'm seeing the sun and then the rays, and how each of those rays is like a blessing that you can work with, like energy that you can work with, ride off of the energy that's emanating and vibing from the constellation right now, and like how the planets and the sun are all synced up with one another in operation. And there's this piece also of like shining a light on the exalted version of Saturn in like how Saturn shows up for you. Exalted Saturn. It's the builder, the committed one, the stable one, the one that can hold, the one that can go the distance, the dependable one. There's something here of like solid ground, solid foundation, and like emanating and rising from that. And maybe there's an aspect of yourself or your work that you are ready to bring forth and to shine and radiate. And this is a green light to do so. So whether that's in your work or like in your relationships, a la Libra theme, there's something here around showing up in your full radiance and light, and celebrate that. I love this for you. Okay, let me know how that lands in the comments below. All right, Aquarius, we are doing your sign. Please tune into your rising and or sun, and we are pulling from Earth Magic, Stephen Farmer. Okay, so tuning in. Fog veiled. Fog veiled. Okay, so let's tune into that for you. I feel there's still something here with Pluto in your sign. I mean, Pluto's going to be in your sign for quite some time, but like Pluto is also playing a role on the stage of this lunation, squaring the ruler of this lunation, squaring Venus. And there's something that while Pluto is unearthing things, there's kind of like a revealing of what has been veiled. And I feel like not all of it has been revealed just yet, especially in your sign. And there's also something here that I'm getting in this process. It's, you know how when we are cleaning the closet or cleaning a room that like you haven't organized or cleaned in a really long time, and it gets really messy before it starts getting organized and looking good. And there's this point where you're like, well, this looks terrible. And like, oh my gosh, now I'm in the middle of this mess. How am I ever going to get this organized? It can feel overwhelming, and you might lose sight of the vision, right? In that overwhelm. And there's something here that I'm getting that's akin that feels like energetically similar, where there's just been like so much coming up from this cleanup, that this revelation that Pluto is doing, and it's creating kind of this like mental fog, or this, okay, like what do we do now kind of energy. So I just first want to honor that. And also I'm being reminded for you that you will get the organized closet in the room. It will come, and there will be the momentum again. But right now, maybe it's time to take a little bit of a break, a snack break, a body break, move your body, use the bathroom, like these very basic, bring in a little bit of like rhythm and music and joy amidst the fog. You don't have to move out of it just yet. It's okay that things are still veiled, even though other things are unveiled. It's okay that there's this mess. You're going to get to where you want to go. But right now, take a little break, a mental break, whatever kind of break you need. So that's the invitation for you. I hope this is serving, and let me know what kind of break you're taking. And I think I'm going to take a little bathroom break, speaking of which. So thank you for that invitation, and I hope this serves you. Pisces, we are doing your sign. Please tune into the rising and or sun sign. And we are using Earth Magic Oracle cards, the deck by Stephen Farmer. So here we go. Ooh. You got Wolf Instinct. Wolf Instinct. Okay, so let me tune into this for you. The first thing that's coming through, this is coming fast, is Mars in your sign. This feels like wolf in Pisces. And yeah, and so Mars has to really move on instinct within territory that isn't necessarily super familiar, or where he doesn't have his full resources. And then like Mercury, same in your sign, like not in detriment, not fully capable. Like these are the signs that are about movement and like the using the mind, using logic, going for the taking action. And what I'm getting is now's the time that like while they're in your sign, this feels a lot more about instinct, and especially the ruler of your sign, the planet ruler of your sign is Jupiter. Jupiter exalted currently in Cancer and making a trine to these planets, making a trine especially to Mercury. It's not about using the logical mind or the rational mind. It's about dropping into instinct, and that the body, the nervous system, but the deeper, like the heart, this is all part of instinct. And it's not even necessarily about dropping into like the lower levels of consciousness or like the lower chakras. It's about working with them, that they all contain powers and abilities to perceive and receive information that is all useful and important. And this is more about navigating whatever situation you are in a way that is not defaulting to rationalism or logic, because that is actually not fully available to you right now. And I feel like that's a blessing in disguise, because now is not a time where that is going to be the most helpful for you. It feels like what is really going to serve you is moving from that deeper knowing that you have, that is intuition and instinct together. And with the wolf, there's something here about the pack as well. Not necessarily moving alone, like surrounding yourself with kin, with others that you trust. smelling things out, right? Like smelling your way through situations, through circumstances. And there's also there's this quality that I feel from Mars of like tracking, right? Like the hunter energy. It's like going for what you desire, but on a different level, in a different way, and tracking to get there. So like paying attention to the signs, to symbols, synchronicities, to patterns, pattern recognition. There's like, again, not from a logical place, but more from like this instinctual and intuitive place. And moving through there. And I feel a big part of it is also allowing the emotions to move through the body, especially with Jupiter and Cancer, bringing in the nourishment. What do you need? Like literally to sustain yourself, to sustain your body, take care of yourself. Especially if you're in deep emotional waters with this like Cancer and Piscean energy. And it may have to do with what you have committed to, or what you were committed to, or what you want to commit yourself to, because that Libra full moon energy, and that particularly in that Libra 2 Decan, it has something to do with the relationships and the commitments. So, you know, one thing that's coming through even is like, I don't know, maybe this is someone who is tuning in right now, but this is an example that I was just shown is like, let's say you're in real estate and there's a client that you meet and you're following your instinct around that person, even though they may seem like this shiny object, right? Like maybe they have a big budget or something, but then like you feel something is off. And it's not about using the logical mind. It's like just on instinct. And so following that and trusting that despite the illusions or the perceptions, and then the logical mind that isn't at its full capacity necessarily. And then following that fully to fruition, to like, until you see the evidence, right? Like, so the trust comes first before evidence. And that's what I'm getting for you. So, and what I'm getting is like, maybe that client isn't necessarily going to be worth all, like working with all the effort, the commitment, the time and energy, the money that you put in. And like, you know, it turns out to be like a terrible deal or something like that. I don't know. The contracts fall through, or the person is, you know, like not a great human. So anyway, that came through. That's like one version of what this could be. But I really invite you to take this and apply it to how it's currently showing up in your life. But most importantly, follow and trust. Show yourself that trust before the evidence presents itself, because you know. Oh, Pisces, you know. Okay, let's be real. So I hope that that's supportive for you. Let me know in the comments below. And before I let you go, I want to come back one more time to something that I mentioned before, and that I think would be really beautiful alongside this full moon. The Witch Moon Alchemy course goes live April 1st, the same day as this Libra full moon. And everything we talked about today, the shape-shifting, the self-erasure, that voice that gets quiet, that dims so that others can be comfortable, the ties that bind you, literally, and to these patterns that really don't belong to you, that's what the Witch Moon Alchemy course is for, and it's going into the root of it all. In addition to other courses that address these issues at the root, at the core, the subconscious level, like the Healer Identity Upgrade. That is just one of the most powerful mind-shifting exercises and protocols that I have used and I work with a lot of my clients and members. And it's all inside of Bloom. So this is not just another like astrology course or healing framework. These go deep. These are like the Swiss Army knife that I have found to really address these deeper level blocks, programs, issues, the old fears that are at the level of the subconscious mind and at the level of the soul. So I also have integration practices that can help you to anchor the shift. So this full moon may be illuminating the pattern, and I feel like Witch Wound Alchemy and the Healer Identity Upgrade and the other Intuitive Clarity Lab I have inside of Bloom is how you really start to move through them at the level where they actually live. And it's all available inside of Bloom Premium, my membership community over on School. And Bloom Premium is currently at $44 a month, but after April 1st, it's going up to $55 a month. So you get access to over $1,500 worth of courses and calls and programming for $44 a month. And I want you to get that current price, get access to it for lifetime, and you can cancel at any time. So you have until the 1st. The link to join Bloom is in the description, and I'd love to see you there. This is genuinely some of the most important work that I've created and I'm bringing in. Alongside the timing of this lunation, I feel like it's really powerful. All right, that's everything I got for you today. Thank you so much for being here and for going deep with me. As always, this community means everything, and I'll see you for the Aries new moon. And trust me, you don't want to miss that one. So much love. Be well.